In that luxurious hospital, Maya Rodriguez's invisibility was a uniform. But the billionaire's 17-year-old deaf daughter, Sophie Rothwell, was invisible too. It only took one gesture, a silent language of hands, for the richest girl in the country to feel, for the first time in her life, that someone finally heard her. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss the final chapter of this story and discover the price Maya paid for breaking all the protocols and, more importantly, why her billionaire father confronted her just to beg for help. Let's get started. The sixth-floor corridor of Westridge Memorial Hospital smelled of antiseptic and expensive promises. Maya Rodriguez pushed her supply cart with the same invisibility as always. 32 years old, faded blue scrubs, a badge nobody ever looked at twice. She was part of the landscape, like the beeping machines or the abstract paintings on the walls that cost more than her annual salary. "Excuse me," she'd murmur whenever crossing paths with doctors. They never answered. It was an ordinary Tuesday when the private elevator's glass doors opened. Maya was restocking the glove dispensers when she felt the shift in the air. That peculiar electricity money brings with it. 3 security guards emerged first, followed by a man in a suit that probably cost more than her car. Marcus Rothwell. She recognized the face from magazine covers in the waiting room. CEO of Rothwell Industries. Estimated fortune of $3.2 billion. Occasional philanthropist. But it wasn't him who captured Maya's attention. It was the girl. 16, maybe 17. Dark hair pulled into an impeccable ponytail, designer dress that looked uncomfortable. But it was the eyes that told the real story. That distant, glazed look of someone physically present but emotionally miles away. Maya knew that look. She'd seen it in the mirror years ago, had seen it on her brother's face. The girl stumbled slightly. Nobody noticed. The adults around her were too busy with iPads and urgent calls. But Maya saw. And she saw something else. The way the girl's fingers moved nervously, forming patterns in the air. They weren't random gestures. It was sign language, fragments, incomplete words whispered in hands when nobody was paying attention. The group walked right past Maya, of course. She was furniture. Marcus' executive assistant was saying something about just a quick consultation, and we can't miss the 4 o'clock meeting. The girl stared at the floor, trapped in her own silence. Something inside Maya moved. Not thought, pure instinct. When the girl passed, Maya did something that broke every unwritten rule of her position. She acted like she cared. Her hands rose, fingers dancing in fluid movements, natural as breathing. "Hello, are you okay?" The girl froze. For a second, nothing happened. The world kept spinning. The guards kept walking. Then, slowly, as if seeing a ghost, Sophie turned her head. Her eyes widened. Instant tears. Sophie's hands trembled, then responded, hesitant, disbelieving. You no sign?" "Yes," Maya signed back, smiling. "My brother is deaf." The entire corridor stopped. Marcus Rothwell, man who commanded boardrooms with presidents and kings, who never showed surprise, became completely still. His assistant dropped her iPad. The security guards exchanged confused looks, because for the first time in months, maybe years, Sophie Rothwell was smiling. Not the polite, empty smile she offered photographers. A real smile, one that reached her eyes, that lit up her entire face. Her hands moved now with urgency, dexterity, life. Nobody here knows sign. Nobody ever. You're the first person who... "Sophie, darling, we need to go." Marcus's voice cut through the moment, uncomfortable and authoritative. He didn't understand a single word of what his daughter was saying. His own hands remained helpless in his pockets. Sophie looked at her father, then back at Maya. Something broke in that look, like glass cracking, like ice melting. "What's your name?" She signed quickly, desperately. "Maya," she answered. "Maya Rodriguez." "Will you be here tomorrow?" Maya hesitated. She looked at Marcus, who watched her with an expression she couldn't decipher. It wasn't anger, wasn't gratitude. It was something more disturbing. It was ignorance confronting its own failure. "I will be," Maya signed. Sophie nodded, memorizing Maya's face as if she were the last person on earth. Then, obediently, she turned and followed her father down the corridor, but now she walked differently. Head a little higher, shoulders less curved. Marcus looked back once. His eyes met Maya's for one eternal second. There were unasked questions in that look, perhaps even silent accusations. Then they disappeared behind the double doors of the VIP wing. Maya stood alone in the corridor, heart beating strangely. Around her, the hospital resumed its rhythm. Nurses running, machines beeping, the world spinning as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. For the first time in years working at that hospital, Maya didn't feel invisible. And somewhere beyond those expensive doors, a girl who had lived in silence her entire life had just discovered that someone could finally hear her. What neither of them knew yet was the price this connection would demand. Chapter 2. Maya couldn't sleep that night. Her one-bedroom apartment in Riverside, the kind of place landlords call charming and tenants call what I can afford, felt even smaller under the weight of her thoughts. She lay in the narrow bed, watching the ceiling cracks she knew by heart, thinking about wide eyes and trembling hands forming words nobody else understood. At 2 a.m, she gave up on sleep, got up, made coffee, and opened the desk drawer she hadn't opened in months. Inside, wrapped in a faded handkerchief, was a picture frame. 2 smiling faces stared back at her from the past. Maya at 12, all elbows and knees, holding a science trophy. And beside her, Danny, 9 years old, messy hair, crooked smile signing to the camera, "My sister is genius." Daniel Rodriguez. The boy who taught her that silence doesn't mean absence, that there were entire languages beyond spoken words, that love doesn't need sound to be heard. Danny was born deaf into a family that could barely afford doctor visits, let alone professional interpreters or specialized schools. The doctors at the free clinic had given their parents a pamphlet about sign language and little hope. "He's going to have a hard life," they said, as if pronouncing sentence. But Maya, only 3 years old then, didn't accept that sentence. She learned alongside Danny. Every sign, every gesture, every facial expression that transformed hands into poetry. While other kids played with dolls, Maya and Danny created dictionaries with crooked drawings. While teenagers in the neighborhood wasted time at malls, they watched worn-out ASL videos at the public library, pausing and repeating until their fingers hurt. Mom worked double shifts at a laundromat. Dad had abandoned the family when Danny was diagnosed. "Didn't sign up for this," were his last words. So Maya became Danny's voice, ears, and bridge to a world that had no patience to slow down. She went with him to school meetings where teachers talked about Danny, never with Danny. Translated jokes other boys made behind his back. Fought with principals who wanted to put him in special education, code for away from normal children. Maya learned early that the world had 2 types of silence. Danny's silence, which was complete and honest, and the silence of people around them, which was choice and comfort. They could hear Danny if they wanted to. They simply didn't want the inconvenience. At 16, Maya had 2 jobs and perfect grades. She was planning for medical school, had won a full scholarship. She was going to be a doctor, create clinics for people like Danny, change the system from within. Then, Mom got sick. Lung cancer, stage 4. Working with chemicals without protection for 20 years had taken its toll. Maya dropped the scholarship, took a job as a nursing assistant. Immediate salary, no time for college. Someone needed to pay the bills. Someone needed to care for Mom. Someone needed to be there for Danny. Mom died 6 months later on a rainy Tuesday. Danny was 14. The funeral was small. Neighbors brought casseroles. A priest who never knew them read generic verses. Maya held Danny's hand the entire time. translating empty condolences into signs that sounded even emptier. That night, in the silent apartment that now seemed too vast, Danny signed something Maya never forgot. Everyone keeps saying she's in a better place, but how do they know? Nobody asks what I think. Nobody ever asks. It was true. Throughout the wake, people had talked about Danny, whispering that poor thing, and so young to lose his mother and be deaf, as if the two tragedies were equivalent, as if deafness were grief. "You're deaf, not invisible," Maya had signed back, fierce, "and I'll always ask, always." She kept that promise for 3 years, worked double shifts, made sure Danny finished high school, fought with social workers who wanted to separate them. Maya was 20, looked 40, slept 4 hours a night, lived on coffee and postponed promises. Then Danny got a full scholarship to Gallaudet, University for the Deaf in Washington, D.C. The day he left, Maya cried for the first time since Mom's funeral. Not from sadness, but from pride so intense it hurt. "You sacrificed everything for me," Danny signed at the airport, tears streaming down his face. "It wasn't sacrifice," Maya lied. "It was love. Someday I'll pay you back, I promise." "You already have. You taught me it's worth fighting for people the world ignores." That was 8 years ago. Danny was now a software engineer, dating, had his own apartment, sent money Maya always returned. They did weekly video calls, hands dancing through pixels, laughing at jokes no hearing person would understand. But Maya was still in the same apartment, same job, same faded scrubs, same invisibility. She was 22 when she started. It was going to be temporary. 16, 17, 18. The years bled into each other. Medicine became a distant mirage. Maya was good at what she did, excellent even, but nursing assistants were replaceable cogs. Nobody learned their names. Nobody asked about their stories. She was furniture that bled. Until yesterday. Until that girl in the corridor with eyes that recognized loneliness because they lived in it. Maya looked at Danny's photo again. Would he be proud of what she did, or furious that she'd risked her job for a rich stranger? "People the world ignores," she'd said at the airport. Sophie Rothwell had billions, but Maya recognized hunger when she saw it. Not hunger for food, hunger to be seen, to be heard, to exist beyond obligations and expectations. Maya knew that hunger intimately. At 6 in the morning, she put on her uniform, tied up her hair, looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back had deep, dark circles and postponed dreams in her eyes, but she also had something else, purpose. She took the bus, crossed the city where buildings got progressively taller and prettier, got off at the stop near the hospital, past the Starbucks where she never bought anything. $4 for coffee was obscene. Entered through the employee door, clocked in, grabbed her cart, 6th floor, VIP wing. Her heart beat faster than it should, because Maya knew something about invisible worlds. Once you truly see someone, really see them, you can't pretend they don't exist anymore. And some part of her knew, with the quiet certainty of someone who'd lived through tragedy, that seeing Sophie Rothwell, really seeing her, was going to change everything. The elevator beeped, the doors opened, and there, sitting alone in the VIP wing waiting room, phone in her hands but staring at nothing, was Sophie. When their eyes met, something happened, something small but seismic. Sophie smiled. Not yesterday's polite smile, a smile that said, "I knew you'd come back. I knew you were real." Maya pushed the card aside, checked that no supervisor was around, and did something absolutely forbidden by the conduct manual. She sat down next to a patient. Her hands rose, and the invisible world became visible again. "Good morning," she signed. "It is now," Sophie answered. And somewhere in the hospital's lower floors, in offices overlooking the city, decisions were being made about these two women. Decisions about professional boundaries and appropriate places, and who had the right to talk to whom. Because invisible worlds are tolerated only as long as they remain invisible. And Maya Rodriguez had just turned on a light. For 3 days, Maya and Sophie built a secret world in stolen intervals. 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Moments between medication rounds and sheet changes, when corridors were empty and supervisors too busy to notice a nursing assistant sitting with a VIP patient. Sophie was in the hospital for neurological exams. Chronic migraines no specialist could explain. Marcus Rothwell had basically bought an entire wing for 2 weeks, ensuring the best care for his daughter. What that really meant? The most expensive care, executed by people who never looked Sophie in the eyes. Except Maya. In their first real conversation, sitting in the empty 6th-floor solarium, Sophie had asked, "Why didn't you become an interpreter? You're fluent." Maya hesitated. "Needed immediate money when my mom got sick. Nursing assistant was what I could get fast." "You wanted to be a doctor?" Sophie had read between the lines. "Yes, long time ago." Maya smiled bitterly. But life had other plans. "I know that feeling." Sophie signed, and there were decades of experience in those young hands. 2 women, separated by billions of dollars, but united by something more fundamental. They understood what it was to be mistranslated by the world. Sophie told about private school. There was an interpreter, of course, generously paid. But the woman treated Sophie like a task, not a person. And the other students? Too polite to be openly cruel, too rich to genuinely care. "They talk to me like I'm a small child," Sophie signed, frustrated, as if deaf meant stupid. "People confuse not hearing with not understanding," Maya agreed. "Your brother was lucky, had you." Sophie looked out the window. "I have everything money can buy, except the only thing that matters." "Which is?" "Someone who knows me." On the second day, Sophie brought her iPad, a digital diary nobody would ever read. "I write everything here, thoughts nobody asks about. It's pathetic." "It's not pathetic," Maya signed firmly. "It's survival. When the world doesn't listen, you find other ways to exist." They talked about music, how Sophie felt beats through vibrations, about loneliness, not being physically alone, but surrounded by people who never really see you. "My stepmother says I'm dramatic," Sophie confessed, "that I have everything and still complain." "Having everything materially and nothing emotionally isn't having everything," Maya answered. "It's having a pretty prison." Sophie laughed, not the polite laugh from galas, but something real and broken. "Pretty prison." "Exactly." That's when Maya realized she wasn't just talking. She was building a bridge, and bridges, once built, become passages other people notice. The first to notice was Sandra Chen, head nurse of the 6th floor. Sandra was in her 40s, efficiency personified, zero tolerance for irregularities. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, she found Maya and Sophie in the solarium. "Rodriguez." The voice cut the air like a scalpel. "A word. Now." Maya stood up, heart sinking. Sophie looked at her alarmed. "It's okay," Maya signed quickly. In the corridor, Sandra crossed her arms. "What do you think you're doing?" "Talking with a patient. You're a nursing assistant, not a therapist, not a friend." Sandra's eyes were stone. "You need to stop. Immediately." She was alone. "She's the daughter of a billionaire, has an entire paid team to care for her. You're not necessary. Nobody on that team speaks her language." "Not your problem." Sandra stepped closer. "Listen carefully, Rodriguez. This is called crossing professional boundaries. You have a function here. Empty bedpans, change sheets, follow orders. If you want to be a social worker, go back to college." The casual cruelty, the reduction of Maya to tasks, burned like acid. "Understood." Maya clenched her teeth. "Understood." Sandra walked away, heels echoing. Maya stood trembling not from fear, but from helpless frustration. She knew this script. Stay in your place. Don't question. Don't reach. When she returned to the solarium, Sophie read her face immediately. What happened? Nothing. Just reminded me I have duties. She told you to stop talking to me. Not a question. Sophie clenched her fists. Tears began. It's always like this. Always when I find someone who sees me, someone takes them away. Hey, Maya took her hands. Nobody's taking anything. We just need to be more careful. Careful how? Less obvious. Shorter intervals. Maya smiled conspiratorially. You know how rebels do it? Sophie smiled through tears. Never been a rebel before. There's always a first time. But while they planned small acts of rebellion, Maya didn't see the figure watching from the doorway. Expensive heels, designer coat, perfect blonde hair, Victoria Rothwell, Sophie's stepmother, and she had seen everything. Victoria said nothing, simply observed, memorizing. The way Sophie smiled, that real smile Victoria had never managed to provoke in 5 years. The way that assistant in faded scrubs had achieved in 3 days what expensive therapists hadn't, making Sophie seem alive. Victoria discreetly took out her phone and photographed. Evidence. Because Victoria Rothwell, from Vegas waitress to billionaire's wife, recognized threat when she saw it. And Maya Rodriguez was a threat. Not to Victoria's marriage, that was secured, but to Sophie's dependence. As long as Sophie remained isolated, unhappy, Victoria was indispensable. She was the one Marcus credited for trying. But if Sophie found genuine connection, if she started asking why stepmother never learned a single sign in 5 years? Victoria pocketed the phone and smiled, the kind of smile predators make before striking. Enjoy it while you can, dear, she murmured. Your fairy tale is about to end. That night, Victoria dined with Marcus at his favorite restaurant. While he cut $200 steak and answered emails, Victoria planted the first seed. Marcus, have you noticed how Sophie is different? He looked up. Different how? More animated, almost hopeful. Delicate pause. Apparently she's made friends with a staff member, that nursing assistant. The one who knows sign language? Yes, they've been spending quite a bit of time together. Victoria let concern tinge her voice. I don't know if it's appropriate. The girl seems excessively familiar, almost invasive. Marcus frowned. Invasive how? Oh, probably nothing. Victoria touched his hand. It's just, Sophie is so vulnerable, so starved for attention. It would be easy for someone to take advantage. She said no more, didn't need to. The seed was planted. Victoria smiled at her wine, savoring anticipated victory. Because bridges are easy to burn. And she was about to light the match. Chapter 4. Maya started arriving earlier at the hospital. Not officially, didn't clock in until the right time, but she was there, in the staff locker room, drinking bad machine coffee, waiting for the moment she could go up to the 6th floor without seeming suspicious. Sophie had also learned the routine. She knew when Maya did rounds, which corridors were less busy, where security cameras had blind spots. 2 weeks in the hospital, and the girl had mapped escape routes like a prisoner planning freedom. It was Thursday, 4 in the morning, when it happened. Maya was restocking the supply closet near the VIP wing. Work that normally took 10 minutes, but she'd learned to stretch to 20. Sophie's room door was ajar, light on despite the hour. Something was wrong. Maya felt it before she saw it. That shift in the air nurses develop, instinct that screams silent danger. She pushed the cart aside and went to the door. Sophie was sitting on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, body shaking with silent sobs. Tears streamed down her face, but no sound escaped, because of course it didn't. Sophie's crying was invisible to anyone not looking. Maya entered without knocking, closed the door behind her. Sophie? What happened? Sophie's hands trembled so much they could barely form coherent signs. I can't. I can't anymore. It's too much. Maya sat on the bed, placed gentle hands on Sophie's shoulders. Breathe. I'm here. You're safe. It took 5 minutes for Sophie to calm enough to sign clearly. When she finally did, the words broke Maya's heart. I had the dream again. The one where I'm screaming and screaming but nobody hears. I'm drowning and they're all there looking at their phones. My dad, Victoria, everyone. I die and they don't even notice. It was just a nightmare. It wasn't. Sophie's eyes were dark, empty. It's my life. I could disappear tomorrow and it would take days for anyone to notice I'm not just quiet, I'm absent. Maya felt something freeze inside her. She recognized that look, had seen it in the mirror years ago, on dark nights after Mom died. It was the look of someone weighing their own existence and finding it too light to matter. Have you thought about hurting yourself? Sophie didn't answer immediately. The silence was answer enough. Then, not about dying, but about disappearing. Just not being here anymore. Nobody would have to pretend they care. Sophie, you don't understand. Sophie's hands moved now with desperate anger. I'm 17, and I already know exactly what my life will be. I'll graduate, go to some college my father chooses, marry someone he approves, probably deaf too to make it easier. Have kids I'll barely know because I'll be busy being decoration in someone else's life, and I'll die without ever having lived anything real. That's not true. It is. Tears falling again. You're the first person in years who treats me like human. The first who learned my language instead of forcing me to learn theirs. You know what my own stepmother said when I asked if she'd learn sign? She said, "What for? You have interpreters." Maya felt anger burn her throat. She said that. She says worse, when she thinks I'm not paying attention. Sophie wiped tears roughly. But I'm always paying attention. It's what deaf people learn to do. Read lips, read body language, read between lines. I know I'm a burden. I know Victoria wishes I didn't exist. And I know my father. She stopped, hands freezing mid-sign. Know what? Maya insisted gently. That he feels guilty. Always. Every time he looks at me, I see guilt. Like my deafness was his failure. Like I'm a project that went wrong. He loves you. He loves the idea of me. The perfect daughter, polite, quiet, literally quiet, who shows up at charity events and makes him look like a good father. Sophie let out a bitter laugh. You know how many real conversations we've had? Real conversations, not just, "How was your day?" through an interpreter. 0. Not one. Maya didn't know what to say, because Sophie was right. She'd seen Marcus Rothwell in the corridor, seen how he looked at his daughter with a mixture of love and discomfort, how he looked away too quickly, how his hands always stayed in his pockets, useless and incapable. I feel invisible, Sophie continued, even when I'm in the same room, especially when I'm in the same room, because nobody knows how to talk to me, so they just don't. I've become expensive furniture they move from place to place. You're not invisible to me. Sophie looked at Maya, eyes red but intense. I know. That's why I'm so scared. Scared of what? That you'll leave too. That this is temporary. That I'll become invisible again. Sophie's hands trembled. I don't know if I can go back to being invisible now that I've remembered what it's like to be seen. Something inside Maya broke. She pulled Sophie into a hug, breaking another manual rule, crossing another professional line, and didn't care. Because some things were more important than protocols. Sophie clung to her like a child, body shaking with silent sobs. Maya held tight, one hand rubbing Sophie's back in slow circles, the other signing against her shoulder. You're not invisible. You never were. The world was just looking wrong. They stayed like that for what felt like suspended time. Then Sophie pulled away, wiped her face, tried to smile. Sorry, didn't mean to fall apart like that. You don't need to apologize for feeling. My therapist says the same thing, but she's paid to say that. I'm not. Sophie nodded, something like decision forming in her eyes. Can I show you something? Something I've never shown anyone? Maya hesitated only a second before nodding. Sophie grabbed her iPad, opened not the diary she'd shown before, but another folder. Hidden. Password protected. Inside were drawings. Hundreds of them. Self-portraits of Sophie, but distorted, broken, screaming in silence. Drawings of crowds looking through her like she was a ghost. One, particularly disturbing, showed Sophie drowning, hand reaching upward, while figures on the surface took selfies. Art therapy, Sophie signed bitterly. My therapist thinks it's progress. Maya looked at each drawing, heart tightening. They weren't just art. They were screams transformed into lines and shadows. Sophie, you need real help. Help I can't give. I know. Sophie closed the iPad. But at least you listen when I scream. And that's when Maya knew. She had to do something, even if it cost her job, even if it crossed every line, because Sophie wasn't just sad. She was drowning, and Maya wasn't going to stand on the surface taking selfies. Maya made her first real mistake Friday morning. She went directly to Dr. Harrison, the neurologist responsible for Sophie's case, knocked on his office door during break, heart beating like war drum. Dr. Harrison, can I speak with you about the patient in room 604? He looked up from papers, adjusted his glasses. Rodriguez, right? Nursing assistant? Yes, sir. It's about Sophie Rothwell. I'm worried about her mental health. Harrison frowned. She has a complete psychiatric team. Dr. Chen sees her 3 times a week. I know, but Maya took a deep breath. She told me things that I think she's in real danger. Thoughts about disappearing, about not wanting to be here anymore. And she told you this. How, exactly? In sign language, we talk. Something changed in Harrison's expression. Something cold. You talk? Yes, she needs someone who... Miss Rodriguez. Harrison removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly. Are you aware that nursing assistants don't conduct psychological assessments, that there are protocols for these concerns? I am, but... Then why are you here instead of following appropriate chain of command? He put the glasses back, eyes piercing. Unless you've developed inappropriate relationship with the patient. Maya felt the floor move under her feet. It's not inappropriate. Miss Rothwell has a psychiatrist, therapist, and extremely involved father. What she does not need is support staff overstepping boundaries and making unauthorized diagnoses. Harrison returned to papers, dismissive. I appreciate your concern, but I suggest you focus on your designated responsibilities. But she's... Thank you, Rodriguez. You may go. Maya left the office trembling with frustration. She'd done exactly what she should do. Report concerns, and been treated like a meddling child. The second mistake came 20 minutes later. Maya found Sandra Chen at the nurse's station, and against every self-preservation instinct, tried again. Miss Chen, I need to report something about Sophie Rothwell. Sandra didn't even look up. Dr. Harrison already called me. You've crossed serious boundaries, Rodriguez. She's in danger. She has a complete medical team assessing that. Sandra finally looked up, eyes like ice. You're a nursing assistant. Not a psychiatrist, not a social worker, not family. You empty bedpans. But nobody's really listening to her. You're not listening, Sandra cut in, voice low but lethal. You're projecting. You had a deaf brother. Now you think every deaf person is your personal responsibility. The cruelty of those words stole Maya's breath. This isn't about my brother. No? Then why are you so obsessed with this particular girl? Why don't you show the same concern for other patients? Sandra stood up, crossed her arms. I'll be clear. You're one step away from formal disciplinary action. If I hear one more word about you involving yourself with patient Rothwell, you'll be suspended. Understood? Maya clenched her teeth. Understood. Good. Now go to the third floor. They need coverage. Third floor, other side of the hospital, away from Sophie. It wasn't coincidence. Maya spent the rest of the day on the third floor, among patients she didn't know, executing mechanical tasks with mind miles away. Every time she checked her phone for the time, she thought of Sophie alone on the sixth floor, waiting. At 3 in the afternoon, her cell vibrated. Message from unknown number. Got your number from reception. Said it was to schedule appointment. Where are you? S. Maya looked around, checked if anyone was watching, and typed quickly. They sent me to another floor. Sorry, are you okay? The response came immediately. No, my dad is here, wants to talk. I think Victoria said something. Maya's stomach twisted. Talk about what? About you. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, he wants you to stop talking to me. Said it's not appropriate, that you might be taking advantage of my condition. Maya felt anger so intense she had to sit. Taking advantage? She was taking advantage. Sophie, I know, I told him that. But he doesn't listen, never listens. Pause, then, Victoria's smiling. She planned this. I know she did. What's your father going to do? 3 dots for what felt like eternity. Then, going to talk to hospital administration. Wants to make sure you stay away from me. Maya, I'm sorry. I tried to argue, but he doesn't understand signs, and the interpreter was translating everything wrong on purpose. I know she was. Messages kept coming, increasingly fragmented, more desperate. Maya could feel Sophie's panic through the screen. I'm alone again. I always end up alone. You're not alone, Maya typed with trembling hands. I promise. I'll find a way. But it was an empty promise, and both knew it. At 5 in the afternoon, Maya was called to the Human Resources office. The woman behind the desk, Janet, graying hair, face that had seen many fights, got straight to the point. Miss Rodriguez, we've received a formal complaint about inappropriate behavior with a patient. Who complained? That's confidential, but the accusation is serious. Excessive emotional involvement, crossing professional boundaries, and causing distress to patient and family. Distress? I was helping. According to the complaint, you were projecting your own personal experiences onto the patient, creating unhealthy emotional dependence. Janet read from a paper. There's also an allegation that you sought patients' personal information for unauthorized contact. She messaged me. I didn't. Miss Rodriguez. Janet removed her glasses. I'm not here to judge, but I need to investigate. You're suspended with pay until we complete the review. Suspended? The world tilted. For how long? Minimum 1 week, possibly more, depending on findings. 1 week. Sophie would be alone for 1 week, and Victoria would have plenty of time to ensure Maya never returned. Can I at least say goodbye to her? Absolutely not. You must leave the premises immediately. Maya left the hospital in shock, turned in her badge at security, cleaned out her locker under supervision, exited through the back door like a criminal. The afternoon sun seemed offensively bright. She turned on her phone. 17 messages from Sophie, each more desperate than the last. The last one simply said, "They won. They always win." Maya stood at the bus stop, people passing around her like river around stone, and felt something inside her harden. She'd spent 12 years being invisible, 12 years keeping her head down, following rules, staying in her designated place. And where had it gotten her? Nowhere. Still in the same apartment, same salary, same life going nowhere. But Sophie had her whole life ahead, and she deserved more than a pretty prison, deserved more than forced invisibility. Maya looked at the phone, at the desperate messages, and made a decision. If the system wouldn't listen, she'd make the system look, even if it destroyed her in the process. Chapter 6. Maya didn't sleep that night, sat on the apartment couch, phone in hand, rereading Sophie's messages until the words lost meaning. At 2 in the morning, the phone vibrated. Video call. Sophie. Maya answered immediately. The screen showed Sophie's face. Red eyes, disheveled hair, hospital bathroom in the background. "Are you okay?" Maya signed, alarmed. "No." Sophie's hands trembled violently. "I can't anymore. I tried so hard." "Sophie, what did you do?" "Nothing yet." Sophie showed something off camera. Razor blade. "But I'm thinking about it. Would be so easy. So silent. Nobody would know until morning." Maya's heart stopped. "No. Sophie, listen to me." "Why?" Tears streaming. "Give me one reason. One real reason." "Because you matter. Because your life isn't life." Sophie laughed bitterly. "It's existence, and I'm tired of existing without living." Maya thought fast, desperate. "Then live. Run away with me." Sophie stopped, eyes wide. "What?" "Leave the hospital, now. Meet me." "You're crazy. My father." "Your father isn't saving you. He's killing you slowly." Maya's hands were firm now. "You're 17. You have rights. You have a voice. I have nothing. I have a golden cage. Then break the bars." For one eternal moment, Sophie just looked at Maya. Then, slowly, she put the blade on the sink. "If I leave, they'll look for me. Let them look. But meanwhile, you breathe. And then we figure it out." Maya smiled sadly. "Together." Sophie nodded slowly. 20 minutes. Side entrance. "I'll be there." The call ended. Maya dressed at record speed, grabbed keys, ran to the old car she barely used. Drove through empty streets, heart in throat, mind spinning with all the ways this could go wrong. Kidnapping. She'd be accused of kidnapping. But the alternative was leaving Sophie alone with that blade. There was no real choice. She parked 3 blocks from the hospital, walked to the side entrance. 2:40 in the morning. Night shift was busy on upper floors. Sophie appeared like a ghost. Hoodie, backpack, frightened but determined eyes. "I came," she signed, almost surprised at herself. "You came?" Maya held her hand. "Let's go." They walked quickly through dark streets. Maya kept looking back, expecting sirens, security guards, Marcus Rothwell emerging from shadows. Nothing. Just silence of a sleeping city. In the car, Sophie started trembling. "What did I do? What did we do?" "You chose to live. This isn't living, it's running." "Sometimes they're the same thing." Maya drove aimlessly for 20 minutes before realizing she had no plan. Couldn't take Sophie to her apartment. It would be the first place they'd look. Couldn't go to a hotel. Sophie was a minor, they'd ask questions. So she called the only person who would understand. Danny answered on the 3rd ring, voice hoarse with sleep. "Maya? It's 3 in the morning. I need help. Real help." He listened to the whole story without interrupting. When Maya finished, there was long silence. "You kidnapped a billionaire's daughter. I saved her life. Police will call it kidnapping." "I know." Another silence. Then, "There's a shelter in Riverside, for youth in crisis, run by a deaf woman, friend of mine. She'll understand. Danny, send the location. I'll call her now." 40 minutes later, Maya and Sophie were at a small house in a quiet neighborhood. The door opened, revealing a woman in her 50s, graying hair, kind eyes. "I'm Patricia," she signed. "Welcome." Sophie entered like a sleepwalker. Patricia took her to a back room, returned alone. "She's in shock," Patricia signed to Maya, "but safe, for now." "How much time do we have?" "Until someone notices she's missing? Hours, maybe." Patricia touched Maya's shoulder. "You know what you did is illegal?" "I know." "And you did it anyway. Would do it again." Patricia nodded, respect in her eyes. "Then we need a plan. Fast." But before they could start planning, Maya's phone vibrated. Call from unknown number. She answered, hands trembling. Maya Rodriguez? Male voice, controlled, icy. Who is this? Marcus Rothwell, and you have something that belongs to me. Maya hung up the phone, hands trembling. Marcus knew, already knew. Patricia watched her, concern in her eyes. The father? Maya nodded. He'll call the police. Probably already did. They stood in tense silence, listening to every passing car, every sound of the night. But it was Sophie who appeared first, stumbling from the bedroom door, face pale. He called? Yes. I need to go back. Sophie started crying. I don't want you arrested because of me. I won't let you go back to that place. It's not your choice. Sophie's hands moved with desperate anger. You don't understand. My father can destroy you. Completely. He has lawyers, power, money. And what do you have? Nothing but a cage? Sophie stopped, hurt. Then, slowly, maybe a cage is all I deserve. Before Maya could respond, the doorbell rang. Everyone froze. Patricia went to the window, peeked through curtains. Black car, man in suit. Police? Worse, lawyer. The doorbell rang again, insistent. Patricia opened the door just a few inches. A man in his 50s, impeccable suit, leather briefcase, looked at her with barely disguised irritation. Patricia Mendez, I'm Richard Chen, attorney for the Rothwell family. My client has reason to believe his daughter is in this residence. Patricia signed something quick to Maya before responding aloud, slowly. There's nobody here but me. Ms. Mendez, obstructing an investigation is a serious crime. There's no investigation. There's a controlling father looking for his adult daughter. She's 17. She's a minor. And she sought legally recognized refuge for youth in crisis. Patricia crossed her arms. Unless you have a warrant, you can't enter. Chen narrowed his eyes. My client is prepared to involve authorities. Then involve them. Meanwhile, door stays closed. She shut the door in his face. Maya held Sophie, who trembled uncontrollably. This won't end well. Doesn't need to end well. Needs to end right. 10 minutes later, Maya's phone rang again. Same number. She answered, put it on speaker. Miss Rodriguez. Marcus's voice was controlled, but there was something different in it now. Not anger, exhaustion. I need to speak with my daughter. She doesn't want... Please. The word came out broken. Just, let me see her. 5 minutes. Maya looked at Sophie, who stared at the phone like it was a snake. Your choice, Maya signed. Sophie closed her eyes, breathed deeply, then nodded. 20 minutes later, Marcus Rothwell sat in Patricia's small living room, looking completely out of place. $3,000 suit on threadbare sofa, Italian shoes on worn carpet. Sophie refused to sit near him. Stood by the door, arms crossed, defensive posture. Marcus looked at his daughter, then at Maya. Can you translate? You can ask me directly, Sophie said aloud, voice she rarely used, tense and imprecise from disuse. I hear my own words in my head. Marcus looked like he'd been slapped. Sophie, I didn't know you... Talked? Of course I talk. Just don't like it because my voice is strange. She made air quotes, bitterness palpable. Because it reminds everyone I'm defective. You're not defective. Then why did you never learn my language? Sophie switched to signs, movements sharp and angry. Maya translated robotically. She asks why you never learned sign language. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. There were interpreters. I thought it was enough. Interpreters are employees. Maya translated as Sophie signed. Not Bridges, not father. I didn't know how, Marcus admitted, and for the first time there was raw honesty in his voice. When your mother died, when you were only 3, I panicked. I was alone with a child I couldn't communicate with, so I hired people. I solved the problem with money because that's what I know how to do. I'm not a problem to solve, Sophie screamed, voice breaking. I'm your daughter. Heavy silence fell over the room. Marcus put his face in his hands. When he looked up, there were tears. The first time Sophie had seen him cry. You're right, he said, voice hoarse. I failed. Completely. I turned you into a project instead of a person. And this woman, he gestured to Maya, knows you better in 2 weeks than I have in 17 years. It's unforgivable. Sophie blinked, disarmed by the admission. Marcus took a deep breath. I came here to take you back. I came prepared to threaten Sue, do whatever necessary. He looked at Maya. My lawyer has documents ready. Kidnapping charges, manipulation of a minor, everything. Maya felt her stomach sink. But then, Marcus continued, I sat in the car for 20 minutes, looking at this house, and I realized something. You ran away. For the first time in your life, my daughter made a real choice, and it was to leave me. Dad, Sophie started, but he raised his hand. No, you deserve to hear this. He looked directly at her. I don't know sign language. I don't know how to really communicate with you. I don't know your favorite songs, your dreams, your fears. I don't know who you are beyond obligations and schedules, and that terrifies me. Tears streamed down Sophie's face now. So I came to make a proposal, Marcus said, looking between Sophie and Maya. Not a business proposal, an impossible proposal, the hardest proposal I've ever made. He stood up, went to Sophie, and for the first time in years, placed his hands on her shoulders. Teach me, he said, voice breaking. Teach me to be your real father, and you. He looked at Maya. Help me. I don't want to hire you. I want you to stay because you choose to, because you care about my daughter in a way I've learned money can't buy. Maya stood in shock. You're asking me for help? I'm begging. Marcus released Sophie, faced Maya. Suspension will be lifted. References will be impeccable. And if you want, I can finance the medical school you should have attended years ago. Not as payment, as apology. Apology for what? For being part of the system that makes people like you invisible. He wiped his eyes. But mainly, I'm asking you not to give up on my daughter, because clearly I can't save her alone. Sophie stared at her father as if she'd never seen him before. Maya took a deep breath. There's a condition. Name it. You learn sign language, really. Not apps, not videos. Classes with a teacher, daily practice, real commitment. Marcus nodded. Yes. And Victoria leaves. He froze. What? Your wife set me up to destroy me, manipulated Sophie, created a toxic environment. Maya stepped forward. If you really want to change, she can't be there. Maya! Sophie started signing, but Marcus interrupted. You're right. Victoria signs divorce papers tomorrow morning. Sophie's eyes widened. You already knew? Found out tonight. How she planted evidence against Maya. How she manipulated situations. He looked at his daughter. I chose you. Finally. Sophie collapsed in tears. Marcus hesitated only a second before hugging her. Awkward but sincere. Maya watched, heart tight, waiting for the trick. Because billionaires don't humble themselves like this. Don't admit failures like this. Unless love, true love, was stronger than pride. Will it work? Patricia signed to Maya. I don't know, Maya admitted, but it deserves a chance. Because sometimes broken bridges can be rebuilt, and sometimes the most impossible people make the most necessary changes. Chapter 3 weeks later, Maya returned to Westridge Memorial Hospital. Not as a nursing assistant, as assistant coordinator of the new accessibility program. Small office, decent salary, respect she'd never experienced. Marcus had kept every promise. The suspension was erased from records. Glowing references appeared magically. And he was, surprisingly, learning sign language. 3 classes per week, practicing with Sophie every night via video call. It wasn't perfect. He made mistakes, confused signs, got frustrated, but he was trying, really trying. Sophie had returned home, not to the mansion with Victoria, but to a smaller apartment Marcus rented just for the two of them. No servants, no interpreters living there, just father and daughter learning to coexist. Maya visited 3 times a week, sometimes just for dinner, sometimes to mediate when communication broke down, always to remind Sophie she wasn't alone. It felt like a fairy tale. Unlikely, but real. Then Victoria reappeared. It was a Tuesday when Maya saw her in the hospital corridors. Same perfect blonde hair, same cold smile. She wasn't there as a visitor. She was talking with administrators, with lawyers, with reporters. Maya felt ice down her spine. By Thursday, the story exploded. Billionaire abandons wife for nursing assistant. Scandal of manipulation and abuse of power. Victoria's narrative was a masterpiece of manipulation. She painted herself as devoted wife, destroyed by husband who had inappropriate affair with hospital employee. Sophie was confused girl, manipulated by older woman with ulterior motives. Maya was opportunist who saw vulnerable family and attacked. Not a word about the blade, about the drawings, about years of emotional neglect. Just Victoria crying to cameras about how she tried to love that troubled girl, but was sabotaged by an intruder. On Friday, Maya was called to the hospital director's office. He didn't ask her to sit. Miss Rodriguez, due to negative media attention and serious accusations made by Mrs. Rothwell, we need to conduct a complete investigation. False accusations. Meanwhile, you're suspended. Again. Without pay this time. But Marcus can confirm Mr. Rothwell is too compromised to be a reliable witness, as is his daughter. The director adjusted his glasses. Victoria Rothwell has testimony from employees, records of inappropriate behavior, even photos of you and Sophie in moments that can be interpreted as problematic. Maya felt the floor collapse. She planned this from the beginning. Planned or not, we have a public relations situation, and you're responsible. He pushed an envelope across the desk. Your resignation letter. Sign. Leave quietly, and there will be no criminal charges. And if I don't sign? Then Victoria proceeds with lawsuit for alienation of affection, manipulation of a minor, and 6 other charges. You'll be destroyed financially and professionally. He leaned forward. She has infinite resources and thirst for revenge. What do you have? Maya looked at the paper. All words blurred by tears of anger. 12 years of invisibility. Finally a chance to matter. And it would be stolen again. She picked up the pen. Then her phone rang. Sophie. Don't sign anything, the message screamed. We're coming. 15 minutes later, the office doors exploded open. Sophie entered first, not the shy hospital girl, but furious and empowered young woman. Marcus behind her, tablet in hand. And, behind them, Danny. Her brother had flown from D.C. overnight. Director Wilson, Marcus said, voice icy, I suggest you push that paper away immediately. Mr. Rothwell, with all respect, my ex-wife fabricated evidence. I have proof. Marcus connected the tablet to the office TV. These are security cameras from my own home, which Victoria didn't know existed. The screen showed Victoria in her office on the phone. I don't care what you need to do, ruin that woman. I want Maya Rodriguez destroyed. Yes, sue for everything. No, Marcus will never know. He's too busy playing Father of the Year. Another recording. Victoria paying hospital employee to testify about Maya's inappropriate behavior. Another. Victoria laughing with friend about how that pathetic assistant thought she could save the deaf girl. The director paled. Sophie stepped forward signing while Danny translated aloud. You want a story? Here it is. Stepmother spent 5 years ignoring me, never learned a single sign, treated me like expensive inconvenience, and when I finally found someone who saw me as human, she tried to destroy her, not from concern for me, from fear of losing status. Danny continued translating, voice firm. Maya Rodriguez saved me, literally saved me, and if this hospital fires her, I'll personally tell my story to every journalist Victoria hired. But this time, with the truth. Marcus placed a document on the desk. And I'll sue this hospital for creating an environment that allowed emotional abuse of a minor to continue without investigation. Maya reported concerns that were ignored. That's negligence. The director opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the resignation envelope. Perhaps there's been misunderstanding, he finally said. There was no misunderstanding, Marcus cut in. There was a coward protecting his reputation instead of doing right. But that ends now. He turned to Maya. You don't need to work here. I can create entire program at different hospital, with you leading. Maya looked around, the office, the sweating director, Sophie with eyes shining with pride, Danny smiling encouragement. No, she said calmly. I want to stay here. Everyone looked at her surprised. Because if I leave, nothing changes. Next, Maya, who appears, will suffer the same. But if I stay, if we force changes here, maybe we save the next person the system tries to make invisible. Sophie started crying, signing, You're the bravest person I know. Marcus nodded, respect in his eyes. Then we stay, and we rebuild. The director cleared his throat. Miss Rodriguez, please accept my apologies. Your position is restored, with promotion, and we'll completely review our protocols. Maya picked up the resignation envelope, tore it slowly, and let the pieces fall on the desk. I accept, she said, with one condition, mandatory sensitivity training for entire staff, including you. He hesitated, then nodded. Agreed. Outside the hospital, under afternoon sun, Sophie hugged Maya tightly. Victoria didn't win, she signed. No, Maya agreed. We won. But as they celebrated, neither saw the figure in the distance, watching from a dark car. Victoria Rothwell, face twisted with hatred, dialing a number on her phone. Because women like Victoria never accept defeat. They just change strategy, and the war was far from over. Maya spent 3 days without leaving the apartment. On the 4th day, Marcus Rothwell appeared at the door. He didn't send a driver or a lawyer. It was him, holding 2 coffees and deep circles under his eyes. How did you find my address? Maya asked from the ajar door. The hospital's HR. He offered a coffee. I know I should have called first. You should have. Maya didn't take the coffee. What do you want? Sophie has stopped eating. 3 days. She's only drinking water. His eyes were red. The doctors say it's emotional. She's completely collapsed since you left. Maya felt her stomach clench, but she kept her voice steady. And you want me to come back and fix it? No. Marcus ran a hand over his face. I want you to teach me how to fix it. Maya stared at him, looking for the trick. You have the money for the best therapists. Sophie doesn't need a therapist. She needs a father. He looked directly at her. A real father, not a man who signs checks and delegates parenthood. She hesitated, then opened the door. He stepped into the small apartment, looking around without visible judgment. Victoria is facing criminal charges, Marcus said. But I'm not here for that. I'm here because I finally understood what my daughter feels every day. Total isolation. Being surrounded by people and being completely invisible. Welcome to the world of 90% of humanity. I deserve this. He pulled a crumpled paper from his pocket. I made a list. Things I don't know about Sophie. Maya saw the hasty handwriting. Favorite color? Food she hates? Does she have friends? What is she afraid of? Is she happy? 17 years, he said, his voice breaking. and I don't know if my daughter likes chocolate. So I'm asking, teach me. Sign language, how to see her, how to be the father I should have been." Maya sat down, studying him. "Are you prepared to look like an idiot?" "What do you mean?" "Learning signs as an adult is hard. You'll make a lot of mistakes. Say unintentionally offensive things. Sophie will correct you, she'll laugh at your mistakes. Can your ego handle it?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "If the alternative is losing her, my ego can bleed." "And when it gets hard? When you're tired and don't want to practice?" "Then you kick me out." Maya remained silent, thinking. He represented everything she despised. Privilege, neglect, disguised as generosity. But Sophie needed him. Her father. "If I accept, there are conditions," Maya said. "First, you learn with me, but you also enroll in a formal course, a deaf teacher, 3 times a week, minimum." Marcus nodded. "I agree." "Second, no interpreters at home. If you want to say something to Sophie, you learn it yourself." "What if it's urgent?" "Write it down, text, note, but no outsourcing communication." He swallowed hard. "Next. Third, I don't work for you. I work with you. I don't take orders. I don't accept being treated like an employee. If you fail, I'll tell you to your face." Marcus smiled. "I accept. Anything else?" "Last one, 6 months. If you're not maintaining basic conversation with Sophie, I quit. No second chances." 6 months. Marcus held out his hand. "I accept." Maya shook it. "When do we start?" "Now." She picked up a worn ASL book. "Fingerspelling. Let's spell your name." "Now? But I need to—" "Marcus," Maya cut him off. "For 17 years you've had things more important than your daughter. Now, right now, do you have anything more important than learning to talk to her?" Silence. Marcus turned off his cell phone. He placed it on the table. "No, I have nothing more important." For 2 hours in the small apartment, a billionaire learned the alphabet. Each letter a recognition of lost years. He made mistakes, started over, sweated, became frustrated. But he didn't give up. When he finally spelled Sophie without errors, there were tears in his eyes. "When can I come back?" he asked. "Tomorrow, 7 in the morning." 7, but Sophie wakes up at 7:30. "If you want to talk at breakfast, you need to be ready." Maya crossed her arms. "Or do you have a more important commitment?" Marcus hesitated for just a second. "I'll be here at 7. At the door, he turned. "Thank you for not giving up on Sophie, or on me. Don't thank me yet. I'll only know if you deserve it 6 months from now." After he left, Maya looked at the closed door, her heart confused. She was gambling again, this time on the father. It was crazy, dangerous, probably destined to fail. But if there was a chance for Sophie to have the father she deserved, Maya was going to fight for it, even if it meant trusting someone who represented the opposite of her world. The next day, at 7 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. Marcus was there, with a new notebook and determination in his eyes. "Ready for the second lesson?" Maya asked. "Ready for all of them." And for the first time, Maya believed him. 10. 6 months later. Maya walked into the grand hall of Westridge Memorial Hospital and barely recognized the place. Where there had once been cold walls and clinical silence, there was now life. Colorful posters in ASL, digital screens teaching basic signs, even the security guards wearing badges with "Hello" fingerspelled in sign language. The Accessibility and Inclusion Program for Deaf Families, funded by the Rothwell Foundation, directed by Maya Rodriguez. Nervous? Danny appeared beside her, smart in his new suit. Terrified, Maya admitted in signs. "You changed an entire hospital, trained 200 staff members, created protocols that other hospitals are already copying." He smiled. "But you're nervous about a speech." "It's not the speech, it's..." Maya looked around. It's too real. I'm afraid I'll wake up and be back pushing a cart, being invisible. You were never invisible. The world was blind. The ceremony began. Directors, doctors, journalists, all seated in organized chairs. But Maya noticed something different. In the front rows, professional interpreters, and scattered throughout the hall, dozens of members of the deaf community, guests of honor. Not decoration, not charity, honor. Marcus stepped onto the stage first. 6 months had changed something in him, not his appearance but his demeanor. Less corporate armor, more visible humanity. He started to speak, but then stopped. He smiled, and his hands began to move. I apologize in advance for any mistakes, he signed, his voice accompanying the gestures. I'm still learning, but I have learned that imperfect communication done with love is worth more than perfect silence done with fear. Surprised murmurs. Marcus Rothwell, a billionaire known for controlling boardrooms, was deliberately vulnerable. 6 months ago, I didn't know my daughter, he continued, alternating signs and voice. I thought I did. I knew her blood type, her allergies, her medical history. But I didn't know her favorite color. Purple. I didn't know she writes poetry. Beautiful poetry she never showed because no one asked. I didn't know she's afraid of thunder not because of the sound, but because of the vibrations that trigger her anxiety. He paused, emotion in his voice. I didn't know my own daughter because I never learned her language, and one woman, he gestured toward Maya, had the courage to tell me that truth. Maya felt tears welling up. This program is not charity, Marcus said firmly. It is correction. Correction of a system that treats deafness as a disability to be managed, not as a difference to be respected. Maya taught me. The problem was never my daughter not hearing. It was me never learning to speak. Applause, but also hands waving in the air, the deaf applause, visual waves of approval. Marcus called Maya to the stage. She walked up, legs trembling, and he handed her the microphone. But first he signed something quickly. Thank you, for everything. Maya took a deep breath and began, her own hands dancing as she spoke. I worked for 12 years at this hospital. I cleaned rooms, emptied trash, restocked supplies, and I was invisible. Not because I was hidden, because no one looked. This program isn't just about the deaf community. It's about all the invisible people. The cleaning aides, the security guards, the translators, everyone who keeps places running but is never seen. She looked directly at the camera. Visibility is not a luxury. It is dignity, and dignity is priceless. More applause, more hands waving. Now, Maya smiled, I want to introduce our true star. Sophie walked onto the stage, not the shy girl from the hospital, but a radiant young woman. Hair down, a vibrant purple dress, confidence in her stride. She didn't need an interpreter. She signed directly while the screen behind projected subtitles. For 17 years I lived in silence. Not the silence of deafness, the silence of not being understood, of being in rooms full of people and being completely alone. Her hands moved with poetic grace. Maya taught me that I didn't need to change. The world needed to. And my father, she looked at Marcus, tears in her eyes, had the courage to change. Marcus stepped closer. Sophie continued signing, now directly to him. You made mistakes. Lots of mistakes, but you are here. You are trying. You are speaking my language. She paused. Now you see me. Marcus, hands slightly trembling, signed back. Now I hear. Father and daughter embraced, and there wasn't a dry eye in the hall. Sophie turned to Maya, signed, You saved me. No, Maya signed back. You were already fighting. I just gave you tools. Then accept this. Sophie picked up an envelope. A full scholarship for medical school. Not charity, an investment. In the doctor you should have been. Maya opened the envelope, read it, and the tears finally fell. Sophie, I can't. You can, and you will. Sophie smiled, because some people deserve second chances, and you gave me mine. 3 hours later, the ceremony over, Maya was in the old sixth-floor hallway, the same place where everything had begun. Marcus found her there. Thinking about what? He signed, still hesitant but functional. How much has changed? Maya replied with her hands. And how much almost didn't change? What do you mean? There are still Sophies out there, invisible, waiting for someone to see them. Maya looked out the window. One program doesn't fix the world. No, Marcus stood beside her. But it fixes a piece, and pieces added up become change. Optimistic for a billionaire? He laughed. Realistic. Because I saw the impossible happen. A nurse's aide changed my entire life. If that's possible, anything is. Maya smiled. Is Sophie happy? Finally. Marcus signed carefully. Starting at Gallaudet in the fall. She wants to study law, deaf rights. Of course she does, Maya laughed. She's a rebel now. Your fault. I'll take the credit. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the hospital pulse with life. Maya, Marcus signed. What do you want? For yourself, I mean. Not an obligation, not a duty. What do you want? She thought. For years, she had forgotten she had a right to want things. I want to finish medical school, she finally signed. I want to open clinics for people who can't afford care. I want no Danny or Sophie to ever be treated like a problem. Pause. And I want every invisible person to know. Someone sees you. Marcus nodded. Then do it. I'll help with resources, you command the vision. Why are you doing this? Maya asked. Honestly. Because you taught me, he signed, movement slow but sincere, that true wealth was never money. It was connection. It was seeing people, truly seeing them. And now that I've learned to see, I can't go back to being blind. Maya held out her hand. Marcus shook it. Partners? He signed. Partners, she confirmed. As they left the hospital together, the billionaire and the former nurse's aide, Maya looked back one last time, at the hallway where she had once been invisible, where a deaf girl had been seen for the first time, where everything had changed with a simple gesture. Hello, are you well? Sometimes, Maya thought, revolution doesn't come from wars or demonstrations. It comes from small acts of seeing the invisible and acknowledging every life deserves to be heard.